No, this is exactly why I love having you on here, just because this was like a really good answer that you gave, just because like, of course, like we say, yeah, honesty and like loyalty is super important. And then also like you wanna, have the type of friends to where you can be honest, like so having that right balance to where you want to be honest with them, like so you can't just always be team like I'm team you, like I'm your friend. I'm always here for you, even if you're doing wrong. But like I said, but I do have to call you out whenever you're doing wrong. And like I said, I know you're not going to always like hearing that, but I just got to present this in the most, like you said, in the most like loving way possible. And so just having to be real about that because like I said, you don't want to always, like I said, coddle somebody's feelings and make it seem like, oh, like I'm afraid if I say one thing that's gonna hurt their feelings, like we're gonna cut off like a X amount years of friendship, over something so small. And sadly that can happen. There are people that only want like, I don't know, I call it like soldiers. Like they only want people that like are only like team them if somebody goes against them, and then they may pull this whole like high school tactic of like like, oh, you better yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's like either me or you choose them. And it's like, come on, like we're adults now. Like we're better than that. So, it's just being real and honest with somebody to where you're not being over criticizing, but at the same time you're showing that, that unconditional love. And I actually love that you said instead of like calling somebody out, that you're calling them in. Like I've never heard that before. And I actually love like hearing that when you said that, just because when you think of calling out, people take that as like they get defensive immediately, and but then when you hear calling in, like it is a very like showing that you want to help them, you want to see them grow and do better and learn from whatever mistake they may be doing, or even if, like you said, if they're not being themselves, if they're going through something mentally, like if something's really bothering them, unless you just want to call them in, to like, I want to be there for you on your journey, like what's going on, or if you're not ready to talk about it, just letting you know I'm willing to talk to you about it whenever you're ready. So so just definitely having, the right mindset and the right, definitely like there's so much that goes into like your delivery, like it's just how your tone and all that, like and just the content within your delivery. So like, that's definitely some really good things. Like and being a good listener is definitely like huge when it comes to like being a friend. You don't only want a one-sided friendship to where you feel like you're like a therapist and somebody's just talking about their problems. So let's say you don't get to, explain anything that you've been going through because you could be going through something different, but it's still just as important as their journey and their problems. So so that's definitely key is, being a good listener and, so constantly wanting to build people up and, instead of tearing somebody down, even though, as I know the honesty can come with some criticism, but not to where, like, your criticism is going to be helpful in the long run, not to where it's going to hurt them and they're going to remember that for years, thinking like, wow, I can't believe they said that, to me and stuff like that. So, so I definitely agree with everything that you said.
Right. And I think that one thing to really think about is when we talk about calling out versus calling in, that there's a very physical representation of that. I think we all know what it feels like to be embarrassed in front of a group of people. You might hear my child laughing or talking in the background. I apologize. But you know how it feels. I think we've all been in a place where we've been made fun of or we've been laughed at by a group of people, or somebody has like, you know how you mess up a word when you're reading in class or when you're talking in public speaking or something like that, having someone correct you and be like, oh my God, why did you say it like that? Oh, did you mean this? Or like missing, you know what I mean? There's everyone's been called out. Basically, my dad used to call it putting him on Front Street. When I would call him out for something, he'd be like, don't put me on Front Street. So, but yeah, so I think that really, like, really kind of that feeling of being that young kid standing alone in the auditorium having everyone laugh at you. That's what you think of when you think of calling out. I'm calling you out in front of everyone so that everyone can see your mistake. Calling in implies, here we are. This is a safe space. This is a loving space. This is a place free of judgment. This is what you've done. It's not good. I don't agree with it. I'm not happy with the decisions you're making, but I love you. I believe in you. I respect you. And I want you to love and believe in and respect yourself just as much. And that's the difference between calling in and calling out. One shames and ostracizes, and one invites in, teaches, and loves. So,
Yeah, I love that. Like I said, just hearing, that's just such a good way of like being a good friend. It's like I said, just definitely wanted to call somebody in to embrace them and just to let them know that like I'm here for you and all that. And because here recently, actually, I actually just got called out for something a couple of days ago. I was attending a Bible study and of all things, a Bible study, but to be getting called out. And I accidentally misquoted John 3:16 and I basically got made fun of for it. Like they were like basically saying stuff like, well, not they, it was one guy was saying like, wow, like looks like we need to go through John 3:16 again. And so like he was like saying it like that. And then like 5 minutes later he brought it up again. He said something like, so like if we go through John 3:16, which we messed up earlier, like it's like, okay, like we get it. I messed up on a word, like within John 3:16. Like I'm sorry. So I said definitely unless I understand, unless it being called out, unless it definitely doesn't feel good. And unless I've definitely been through worse calling out situations, but there are definitely times where I may feel like something's a call out, but actually is actually a call in. And like so looking back on it now, I can like appreciate people like I guess where I thought it was calling out, it was actually them actually reaching out because they care. Like there was something that I was going through years ago, and yeah, I feel like I had like friends would like bring up things about like me being, I guess like the way I communicate maybe, like I was told one time I was like a verbal abuser, and like I really had to like go look back on like my text messages and I was thinking like I can see like where they say that because like in person I'm not good with confrontation and of course on phone or like on a computer so you get those you get your courage like, in a way and so I guess like at one point in my life I was very like so I guess kind of well, I'm trying to think of a word, like maybe just rude with my wording. Like I may not say something like so below the belt, but I guess like bad enough to where it would hurt somebody. And that's I just
delivery wasn't the best.
exactly. So like I definitely have been called out for that, and I would take offense to that, like thinking like, no, it's not me, it's you. Like you're the one that's taking it wrong. When in reality, like looking back on it, I can see like, wow, like definitely was very immature and I definitely have learned from it. So like I said, definitely just realizing like I said, I'm glad that I had those friends, back then because like I said, I needed people to have basically put the mirror in front of me and make me realize that they're like what you're doing is not good and it's not too late to change. So like I said, so that calling in was definitely very good to have, and I'm definitely grateful for that now.
I just want to say that I'm sorry that you experienced that. Especially, there's really no excuse. I'm referring to the situation you had at a Bible study. Because there's really no excuse for adults to say adult or behave that way. And I think that in a situation where you're dealing with people who are claiming to be followers of Christ, I say claiming to be because behavior like that for someone who wasn't strong in their faith, that might have driven them out of the church. That might have driven them out of the religion. That might have driven them out of their relationship with God. And the thing about it is if you would criticize and you would attack someone for messing up a word, what would you do to the broken and the hurting who have messed up a life?
Yeah, yeah, that's I'm glad that you say that because like I said it does make it to where now like I probably will never go back to this Bible study, even though I haven't but like I know what you mean. Like I know I wouldn't go to the extent of jumping out of it, but like you said, if somebody was like just new to this like religion of Christianity and like was trying to get involved in like a small group or a Sunday school and they kind of felt ostracized and isolated and kind of humiliated, for something so small, like it can make somebody realize, like, if this is how Christians are, like, I don't want no part of it. So I could definitely see that because even at this point, I've kind of decided that, as far as that Bible study goes, I think I am done with it. So, and I still find other ways to do Bible studies, but I was just realizing the right kind of people to be around if, I don't want to feel like I'm being tore down just because this person may think, I know everything about the Bible and you don't. And just because you didn't quote it perfectly, like I said, he would say stuff like if you misquote the Bible, then like you're adding or subtracting from the Bible, and that's not good. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, just seems like I could not really win much with this guy. So it was just time to take that out after this past weekend of going through that. I just realized I definitely want to have a better environment, not feeling like I'm being tore down, and I want to be built up like real friendships should have.
Right. Um, and just to expound on that a little bit, um, I feel like, you know, here on earth, uh, there is no, people are not, God is not coming to us in the bush and being like, hey, you're the guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you do this, like, you're the one. So there is no need for a, who's the best Christian competition, because when we get to the other side, there's not going to be any kind of, wow, you were superior to all other Christians. You made everyone know that they were not as knowledgeable as you. You called out everyone who ever messed up a verse, and you made sure that anyone who wasn't on your level knew it and felt it. But those poor sick children that you didn't help while you were turning your eye to Joel, who messed up a verse, the single mothers who can't pay their bills, you weren't donating to that. You weren't being a part of the community. You weren't showing Christ's love in real time. You were too busy being a living autocorrect, a Christian autocorrect.